Oh yeah! Mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? We like it mixed!
It's nice to have you back, Casey, so I don't have to sing the song anymore. But the UFC is also back tomorrow in Kansas City, Missouri, a city where the barbecue starts. And at least tomorrow, fights inside the octagon will not be hard to find. A pivotal featherweight matchup takes center stage as a former champion defends his high ranking, tries to maintain his quest, his journey back to a UFC title, while a hungry, surging contender looks to earn a title shot and pick up the biggest win of his career. As we welcome you to the UFC Kansas City preview show. We are here on MMAfighting.com. I am Mike Heck. Thank you for joining us. My best friend, Alexander K. Lee, will join us in a little bit, so stay tuned for that. We're also joined by the wise wordsmith himself, Shaheen Al-Shatti. Excited to get his insight on things. And a special guest is joining us for this opening segment. And ladies and gentlemen, he's back by popular demand. He has shared the octagon with both men involved in the main event. And he probably has a glorious tan after spending some time in Miami, Florida, and maybe just being in Boston, because apparently it's 85 freaking degrees there. Let us say hello to Calvin Kattar. Calvin, thank you for doing this, my man. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, before we get to this main event, I want to briefly touch on the New England sports scene. And look, we could talk about how great the Celtics regular season was heading into the playoffs. We could talk about how the Bruins could end up as the greatest team in NHL history in a couple months' time. But that's not the big story right now, Calvin. The big story is a man by the name of Rob Font and what he did this past Saturday, because you've been in this position before. A lot of people were not giving Robbie Font much of a chance. People are already talking about future matchups for Adrian Yanez on his road to a title shot, kind of forgetting about the path that Rob had taken to get to Miami. He'd been out for a year, and then Rob Font just shows up and finishes Adrian Yanez in the first round and reminded a lot of people about the type of fighter he is. And that experience really matters in this sport, Calvin. So your reaction 6 days later in regards to Rob's big win, his first round finish of Adrian Yanez, and Dad Rob Font undefeated.
Yeah, how quickly they forget, huh? I'm in a similar position right now, and it's motivating to see that. And I hope my story is going to be similar on the comeback. This isn't my first year off layoff, so it was very motivating for me to be a part of that and see him go out and get the W. Especially now, you said Papa Font 1-0, new mythical fighter, Papa Font. Happy to see him go out there and get that W. I know it meant a lot to him, especially like you said after the year he's had, and the naysayers and all that. He came out and did what his whole team and everyone that really truly knows him expected him to go out and do, and that was to go get his hand raised and by dominant fashion in first round KO victory. Man, what a fight that was.
Did you expect it to be that quick and emphatic, or did you think Rob was just going to kind of pour it on and add volume and just kind of pick Yanez apart for a longer period of time?
I mean, Giannis is a game dude. Like, we had a lot of respect for him going into the fight, too. I just don't know if it was mutual or if he overlooked him. I know he was kind of calling out other fighters, saying after this fight, I'm only one more fight away from a title fight, this and that. And, it's tough, coming up. What I hear he's like 5-0 in the UFC, I want to say. Did what he had to do with all the opponents previous to Rob Font, but there's levels to it, and Rob's already been through those levels, and where he's at now, I feel like he's the most dangerous he's ever been.
It was a massive win for Rob and for the New England cartel, but I wanted to have you on to talk about this main event, Calvin. It's a big one for your division. Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. You have shared the octagon with both of these guys. The fight with Arnold was your most recent outing, ended in an unfortunate way, so the fight really never got to get going. We don't know how that would have played out had it continued on, but big stakes for this division, Calvin. So when this fight was first announced, how did you react to it?
I thought, wow, that's a banger. And in my mindset, I think this was the true interim title fight that should have taken place over Max. I mean, no, over Yair and Emmett. But, Yair did look very impressive in that fight and looked like a guy that was deserving of that opportunity. So credit to him. But I think this is the real number one contender fight right here. Is between Max and Arnold Allen. And as you said, man, with Arnold, it's tough to really talk on that one because I feel like the fight ended before it even really got started. But he was slick. His movement, you could tell he was sharp. It's just I didn't really get to see that one through. And then as far as Max is concerned, we all know Max. He's who he is. He's a beast and brings it every time. I think we all know what we're expecting at this fight. Is this is a great one for the fans. They're able to put it in Kansas City, and I'm sure it'll still sell out.
Calvin, I have to say, this fight in a vacuum, I'm very, very intrigued. I'm very interested. It's a tremendous fight. I do have trepidations about it for one big reason, because it is a super, super risky fight for this division. Because Max Holloway has fought Volkanovski 3 times. He's 0-3. First fight, yes, it was competitive, but I thought Volk clearly won. Second fight, one of the most controversial fights I can remember in the past few years. Volk wins. I scored it from every time I've watched it, but I can obviously see why it's so heavily debated. And then the third fight, Volkanovski put on a masterclass, and in my opinion, is one of the greatest all-time title defenses I've ever seen. So the stakes are very high for Arnold Allen. But if Max Holloway wins this fight, Calvin, I feel like the division as a whole, especially up the top, it kind of gets halted in a lot of respects, because I don't think Max is going to get a fourth fight with Volkanovski, at least not anytime soon. If Allen wins, everything I'm saying doesn't mean anything. But if he doesn't, it's kind of a tough hang right now. So am I crazy for having these thoughts? Am I being a Debbie Downer here, Calvin? I know you'll tell me the truth.
No, not at all. I mean, you're speaking the truth. But then again, what if Yair goes out and does the unthinkable and beats Volkanovski? And then it sets up a pretty interesting rematch again, where you got Max, who's already beaten Yair, coming in for a title opportunity, and who knows how that one goes. It's really tough to predict these things, man, and that's what's the beauty about this sport as well. It's just anything can happen at any given time, and usually when you think it can't, that's when it happens.
I just feel like if Yair wins, they're just going to have to beat him again. You know what I mean? Like we live in a world of immediate rematches, Calvin. So they're going to run that one back. If there's a need for any immediate rematch, it's Volkanovski getting one. So like the best Max can probably hope for is Yair not only beats him once, he has to beat Volkanovski twice. That's a lot.
Listen, man, I'm trying to make my return, and I'm hopeful for the division and things. And now you're telling me that when I come back, there's going to be a big traffic jam. That's not what I want to hear. It's not very motivating, bro. Got to work on that. But I hear you. You're bringing up great points. As far as I'm concerned, I get a couple W's I got to get under my belt anyway. But no, you're 100% right. But I think it's a hell of a fight. As far as just matchups are concerned, what a matchup, man. A true test for Arnold Allen. Like, I don't know if he's really competed against anybody like Max up to this point. I would have liked to, like I said, had our fight go longer, but it hadn't. And previous to that, Max is going to be a big test. We'll learn a lot about Arnold Allen in this next fight. We already know who Max is.
Max, yeah, because he's been at the top of this division for a long time, and the man still obviously has the ability to beat most guys at 145. There's no question about that. A lot of people say that although he beat Yair Rodriguez, and even in your fight, Calvin, like Max had a great performance, but he took a lot of shots in that fight. He's been taking a lot of shots. He was wearing the 25 minutes with you. He certainly wore the 25 minutes with Yair Rodriguez. And a lot of people feel that your battle with him and then Yair's fight with him, Yair took a piece of Max with him in that fight, despite not getting the win. And maybe all these battles, the wars, they're catching up with Max Holloway. While Arnold Allen, 10-0 in the UFC, 12-fight win streak. He seems to be trending in a great direction, hitting his stride at the right time. So this might be a tough question for you to answer, but let's just say your phone rings. Arnold Allen's calling you right now. And he says, Cal, AAA here. I need some advice on getting this big win. What would you suggest I do? How should I approach this fight? You were in the octagon 25 minutes with this man. What would you tell Arnold Allen?
It's a good question. I mean, like you said, to your point, though, I think we all leave a piece of ourselves in any fight we're in, But yeah, as far as that one's concerned, I don't know if you want to listen to my advice, man. I didn't fare too well in my 5 rounds, but at the end of the day, I did finish that fight the way I started it, on my own 2 feet. And I just say, bite down your mouth guard. You're in for a tough one. But at the end of the day, like, you got to go and earn your respect. If you let Max run it on you, he's just going to only run it up more and more. So you're going to have to stand your ground like Yair did, and do your best to back him up. And, I'd say pick your shots and mean business when you do, like you've seen Dustin Poirier do, Yair do. Didn't work as well for Yair, but I mean, he had success when he stood his ground and he just let go some big shots. So, and just continue to do what he's always done too. Arnold Allen's been, he's on a tear, like you said. So also don't switch it up now just because you're fighting a tough guy. Like at the end of the day, you got to put some respect in your name too when you step in there. So that's why it makes this one such a fun matchup, and I'm excited to see it. Like I said, I feel like this is the true contender fight over the interim title fight that took place, and I feel like this is gonna prove who's the real number one contender. But it's tough. It's definitely a roadblock at the top, like you're saying, the way that one shakes out with Yair and Alex, and if Max wins, it's interesting to see how this all plays out. And it's definitely going to be a tough one for Sean Shelby and the matchmakers at the UFC.
Absolutely. So right now, Max Holloway is the minus 175 favorite. The comeback on Arnold Allen plus 150. Who gets this done, Calvin? Do we have an official Calvin Kattar prediction here?
Well, let's go back to last week with Rob Font plus 160. What the hell? I hope everybody cleaned up on that one. But aside from that, I take your winnings from last week. And, do you think this one goes the distance? Let's just say that first.
I think it does. I could be. Holloway's so durable, and I just don't know if Holloway's getting Arnold out of there. I don't know. I just feel like this one's at least getting to the championship rounds, but I'd be surprised if this one doesn't go to the cards.
I could see maybe Max breaking them in the 4th and 5th in the championship rounds. Maybe, I don't know if has Arnold really even experienced those rounds much in his career. I don't think so. Rounds 4 and 5. So I definitely think the longer the fight goes, you lean towards Max. But Arnold's sharp, especially in the beginning, and southpaw, that can be a little tricky. Prediction wise, man, I don't know if I go with it. I would lean towards Max. Yeah, and I'd say in the championship rounds, if I was going to guess, I'd say Max in the 4th and 5th. He's going to take him out of there at some point. But I'd be excited to see Arnold Allen shock the world and once again, and prove that he's the number one contender.
I want to get your thoughts real quick on the co-main event. Edson Barboza.
Hold on. Okay. Hold on.
Shaheen. Go ahead, Shaheen.
Really quickly. Because I would like to speak to Calvin about this fight, just because, again, this is a man who's fought both people. Obviously, Calvin, it's something for us to sit here in our living rooms and talk about fighting a guy like Max and talking about sort of what he brings to the cage and all of the factors that go involved with it. But you've actually been in there with him, and this is someone who probably on the Mount Rushmore of featherweights, right? Like you put those 4 up, he's obviously going to be one of them. It's one thing to watch it, but when you're actually inside the cage, is it a different level of just like that pace, that pressure, just the nonstop machine gunness that he sort of brings? Is that something that's difficult to prepare for and actually understand what it is until you're actually in there?
Yeah, that's most guys on that Mount Rushmore. There's not too many people on a Mount Rushmore that training partners can mimic. You know what I'm saying? You try to do your best as you can, but at the end of the day, there's nothing like stepping in there and squaring off against them. And with Max, there's a lot we picked up from that, just as far as definitely the caliber, the level. It was different. That top 5 in the world is just a whole nother level. And every time you step in there against those guys, it's like a Super Bowl. Who makes the first mistake, and then the greats will make it one mistake, magnify throughout the fight, and just make it look worse and worse and worse, and they get momentum. So if you see Max getting off, he's only going to compound it into just better. He's just going to look better and better and better, and the other guy's just going to be wearing it more. In my opinion, you can't give a guy like that momentum. He's too good. And but yeah, it's a hell of a matchup, man. Arnold Allen starts out fast, so maybe you can get into him and kind of push back early in the early rounds. But I don't think that's enough to break Max either. You might win 1, 2, 3 rounds, and then look at how he can perform in those championship rounds where he's had a lot of experience, far more than Allen. So it's definitely a interesting matchup, and I see Max getting it done probably later in the 4th and 5th.
It's funny because I think the way that we talk about matchups is so different, or in fights generally, is so different from the way reality almost plays out, right? Because we talk about Max as sort of this veteran, Arnold is this up and comer, and there's realistically only 2 years of difference in age between them. Like Max is 2 years older than Arnold, despite all of this that we talk about. When when you're on the other side of it, and we spoke about it almost with the Rob Font situation of like almost being counted out of like, oh, this guy's had his moment. It's time for the new blood to come up. Is that motivating just in the camp sense among the team? Like, does that create a sense of energy amongst the team? Like if obviously you're not on Mac's team, but just for a team like that to hear, I don't know what, a year of just conversation about, all right, I guess Max's moment is done, that type of thing. Does that become like a real groundswell of energy within the team before a fight like this?
Yeah, the greats always find something to be pissed off about. Get pissed off about being great, and whether it's you being overlooked because you got this new young gun coming up, and they're thinking you're washed up, or you taking too many rounds, or you left too much of yourself in the fights previous, or if you're the up and comer, it's like, man, they don't put enough respect on my name. I mean, what is he now in the UFC? I want to say like 8-0 and 9-0 at least in the UFC or something like that, Alan. I mean, what else you got to do to get some damn respect? It's like, however you got to drum it up, man. You got to get motivated about something, and I think both guys will just feed off both those narratives and bring it in fight night, and it'll parlay into just a hell of a fight for the fans.
How's the knee, man? How we feeling?
Knee's good. I'm almost ready to put it into somebody again. I'm excited about it. I was getting some team jogs in last week with Rob and the guys. The weather's really motivating. It's starting to turn. I'm feeling great. The hardest part is really just being patient and pulling back, because you feel a lot better than you are. And, Rob has had this surgery in the past, so I'm leaning on him. Haven't been through it before. And then just seeing ultimately the way he came back. I expect my comeback to be pretty strong. Like I said, my mindset's right now, oh, look, they're all forgetting about me. Same thing. I'm finding my same reasons to get pissed off about, and motivated about coming back. And it'll be interesting to see who they put me in there with next. Not that I give a shit.
Nope, you don't. And who doesn't forget about you, Calvin? The MMA fighting viewers and listeners. They have been saying, when is Calvin Kattar coming back on? When is he coming back on? And I know we don't get you for the whole show, but we do appreciate you jumping on. You're a very, very busy man. So thank you for the time. I truly appreciate it. And we'll have to do it again soon, my man. I really appreciate the time.
Always looking forward to it. I appreciate you guys, and till the next one, man. But yeah, so predictions again for the fights. I don't know if I got everyone's prediction. I want to be able to carry these receipts into the next one.
All right. I'm going Max Holloway. Max Holloway decision. I'll break it down a little bit more once we get AK in here, but Max Holloway decision will be my pick. Shaheen?
Man, I was going to have to talk my way through it. I'm not even sure yet. I think I'm leaning Max as well. It's such a tough fight, right? Like, there's so many question marks, but I think ultimately it feels silly to write off Max Holloway. Like, he's Max Holloway. He's only 31. Like, it seems ridiculous to throw dirt on this man's grave. Like, as long as he's Max, I think Max wins it. So I got Max by decision as well, I think.
This is a first. We all agree.
Yes. Well, AK's coming in. I'm sure he'll. Well, AK would come in and he'll disagree with everything Calvin says because that's what happened the last time. So thanks a lot, my man. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you, Calvin.
Calvin Kattar, ladies and gentlemen, joining us just as the landscapers arrive here at Casa de Heck, because which wouldn't be a preview show without it.
The timing is just fantastic every time. No matter what time we put the preview show, we hit the landscapers. I love it.
They were here during heck of a morning, so I'm like, oh, they won't be here. And then now they're cleaning up. Hi,
they're
AK.
fans of the show.
How are we doing?
I'm
What's
good.
up,
They're fans
AK?
of the show. The landscape. They're watching in the car, and then as soon as Kattar was gone, they're like, "All right, boys, let's go to work. Let's get in there." Good.
This left box suddenly getting much more handsome out here. Look at this.
Oh, stop it. Stop it, Shaheen. Stop it. I put up a poll, guys. I snuck in the door early. I put up a poll. Does Max Holloway have another championship run in him? And so far, pretty positive for Bless. I mean, not a lot of votes in so far, but 60-40 in favor of yes. People think, maybe he wins on Saturday and puts him one away. Or, I mean, if people want it badly enough that he's been saying he wants that third fight with Volk as soon as possible. Maybe he didn't say as soon as possible, but he certainly foresees another fight happening. Listen, Izzy knocking out Pereira opened up the door for a lot of people. You saw Rob Whittaker earlier this week saying, hey, if Izzy could vanquish his demon, maybe I can vanquish Izzy. And Max Holloway also mentioned Adesanya and saying, like, listen, he just took him 4 tries across combat sports to finally get a win. Maybe I can do the same with Volkanovski. I'm pretty confident I can beat him. So fans seem to agree. Definitely should not be counting out Max Holloway.
Shaheen, you were part of this conversation with Calvin. Did he give you anything extra to think about here? Did he add any additional questions that you may have had heading into this one? Because, like I said, the fight in a vacuum is tremendous. Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen, if it's just two dudes fighting, sign me the hell up. It's a very risky fight, like I said, but did Calvin give you anything extra to think about, or has your burning question about this fight remained the same?
No, I mean, ultimately, I think the questions are the same regardless, right? Like, Calvin's insight is certainly appreciated. And I think it's interesting to hear from someone who has been in the cage, obviously with both men, but more so with Max, right? Because he even said it himself. The Arnold Allen fight kind of ended before it got started because of that injury. But I feel like being in the cage with Max is something that no one on earth can understand until you're actually in it. And that's sort of what he said too, right? Is just being in with one of the greats. You can prepare all you want, but your sparring partner is not going to be Max Holloway at the end of the day. So you can't really understand what he's about to bring to you. It's always when you have a fight like this, where it's that massive level of jump for someone we've been waiting for, right? Like Arnold Allen has been sort of the dark horse here at 145 for a long time. And we've been waiting to get him that opportunity for that contender fight. And Calvin was going to be that first, and it didn't end up sort of playing out in a way that was satisfactory. But Max is just such a big jump. And I've been I'm on the Arnold Allen train from the beginning. I've been saying from jump that this guy's going to be fighting for titles and ultimately will hold the title at some point. It's just tough when that opportunity comes against Max, who I feel like this entire sport has more or less written off in a way that feels very premature, right? Like this is ultimately him and Robert Whittaker are probably the two pinnacle non-champions that we have in the UFC throughout the whole entire organization, right? And Max is probably, I would even put him above of Robert Whittaker in that sense. Like Max, I said it already on this show, but he's on the Mount Rushmore of featherweights. Like he's either number 2 or number 3, depending on how you want to slot him. And like, he's only 31. Like we talk about Arnold Allen as this young up and comer who still hasn't had a chance to have his moment. He's 29 years old. He's basically the same age as Max. The way fight years works out, obviously those are two very different, 29 and 31. Those are very different from each other because of the careers, but regardless, like they're basically the same age. I have so many questions about what kind of Max is coming into this, what kind of Max we still have left, what kind of like how much runway he still has left in this career, but also just how motivated he is right now. And I don't know, seeing him on media day, he doesn't do a lot of media, so it's rare to see him talk. And seeing him at media day, it felt like it was someone who was very focused, very aware of everyone writing him off. Also kind of going with a clean-shaven look that we haven't seen from Max in a really long time. Kind of threw me off. I wasn't sure when I saw the thumbnail. I wasn't sure, is this Max Holloway? So I have so many questions, man. Because ultimately, Max Holloway, again, he is that dude. And in a world where Alexander Volkanovski does not exist, Max Holloway is probably the longest reigning champion we have seen in a long, long time in the UFC. So it's just tough to write off a guy like that, even as someone like me who I've been so high on Arnold Allen for so long. It's just such a massive level jump. I have so many questions that I think I can't wait to be answered on Saturday.
AK, your thoughts on the matchup? What are some of the big questions you have about it?
Yeah, I don't know if people are so much counting out Max. I think some of it, there is a lot of that chatter for sure. But I think there's also people want to give their credit to Arnold Allen. I think people want to view this as him finally getting his moment where he, for lack of a better phrase, stamps his name as the number one contender. Again, some people would argue he's done enough work already. He's 10 straight wins in the UFC. He has to win 11 straight fights to get a featherweight title shot. That's just kind of how things have shaken out for him. But Saturday is really, really important for him because it feels like he's been robbed of kind of, not robbed, but maybe not getting his credit for finally knocking off some of these top guys. Because listen, he was on a good run before the Dan Hooker fight. He's got good names on there. Gilbert Melendez is on there. Sodiq Yusuff, great name. But he was missing sort of a signature moment. He fights Dan Hooker, gets that moment, but a little bit of that win is sort of about like, why was Dan Hooker even coming back down to 145? He's not a top 10 feather. Huge win for Arnold. Great job in London, but I don't recall too many people saying, well, that's the win that makes him the number one contender. Then he gets the Calvin Kattar fight. Perfect. We were all saying that's a great matchup for him after the Dan Hooker fight. He beats Calvin Kattar. It's got to be in line for a title shot. Unfortunately, ends with an injury. Maybe he was going to be on his way to winning that fight anyway. I don't know. Calvin Kattar is super tough. It's unfortunate. Hopefully they get to run it back in the future. But as it is, that was almost like an incomplete grade for Arnold Allen for that performance. So that's 2 fights in a row against really, well-known veteran guys. And he doesn't quite get the full credit for winning, right? Because it's sort of about what happened to the other person. So this is his chance on Saturday. Again, maybe it gets overshadowed if he wins, and then it becomes, oh, is Max over the hill? With Arnold Allen, he wouldn't have beaten him like 3 years ago, blah, blah, blah. It's possible that it happens too, but I think this is his best shot to really, really, no matter how he wins, I don't care if it is like an off performance from Max Holloway. Arnold Allen is clearly a top 5 featherweight, clearly deserving of a title shot. So all he has to do is win. Let's just hope we get a fun fight. As it happens. But I think regardless of the narrative around how shop-worn Max is, a win is finally going to give Arnold Allen his credit, and he should not have to fight again until he gets that title shot.
Yeah, I think most of the questions are on the Arnold side right now. Look at the betting odds. Betting odds are
really
clearly with Max Holloway right now. Most people think, I don't know. This is why a lot of people felt this fight was kind of unnecessary, because Max is, like you mentioned, it's kind of like the Robert Whittaker of the division. And what Max does is when he gets these opportunities, Max knocks them down. And then we're like, oh, now who's going to be the number one guy? And that's what, like, the only bummer about this fight for me, because if Max wins, then we're like, okay, now what are we going to do? Luckily, I feel better about it now, Shaheen, because we do have Ilia Topuria versus Josh Emmett in June, 5-round fight. So at least I feel a little bit better. We have something in place, and that fight's going to happen before Volkanovski fights Yair. So I do feel a little bit better about that. But with Max Holloway, Shaheen, what if he goes out there and wins this fight, which I am picking him to do. It seems like, at least for right now, you're picking him to do. What happens? Does he just kind of wait for, if Ilia beats Josh, does he just do Ilia versus Max? Or does Ilia get the title shot if Volk wins? This is my trepidation about the fight to begin with. If Max wins, what happens? So I'll ask you that question. If Max wins, what happens?
I mean, that's tough because I have season tickets to the Ilia Topuria train. So, if you were asking me, I would give him the title shot if he wins. I just want this man to be fighting in this title picture already. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm as much of a doomsday person when it comes to Max in this division right now as some people, because I still feel like there is very much a world out there where Max Holloway can end up being a UFC featherweight champion again before all of this is over. We've talked about it, how he's only 31. I know that's an old 31 in fight years, but he is still only 31, and he's only given us good performances. We haven't really seen a dip yet in regards to his skill set and the way he's knocking off these challengers. We say it a lot of times, and we've seen it a lot of times over the past year. The hardest thing to do in MMA is to defend your title over and over and over again. And every time we think we have an unbeatable, invincible champion, like an Alexander Volkanovski, eventually someone comes along and knocks them off. And a lot of times it's the person we don't expect. Is that Yair Rodriguez? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Yair looks like he leveled up 5 levels last time we saw him against Josh Emmett. He looks like someone who could be primed for a big historic moment like that. But also, you just mentioned there's Ilia Topuria in this division. There's Movsar Evloev. There are new names coming up at 145, and at some point, the run of Alexander Volkanovski is going to run out. He is older than Max Holloway. He's 34. We've seen time and time again, historically, older, mid to late 30s in the lighter weight divisions, anything below lightweight. There is just not a long shelf life on that. What Alexander's doing now is somewhat historically unprecedented, by continuing to improve and evolve and look as good as he does, as old as he is. So at some point, Alexander's going to lose, and Max has a little bit of leeway here in terms of the ages, and again, the runs. He's younger. He can outweight Alexander Volkanovski, and it wouldn't be crazy to me if by the end of the year, Alexander Volkanovski has gotten knocked off by, whether it's a Topuria, Yair, somebody. And then if Max Holloway wins this fight, he is that guy, right? He is what Robert Whittaker was going to be if Pereira had beaten at Asanya on Saturday. Robert Whittaker was going to be that next up in line because he had waited and taken his time and just, waited patiently for his opportunity. That feels like exactly where Max is right now. And if this comes to fruition, I would not be stunned if Max Holloway is competing for the UFC featherweight title by, next year. This is a big fight for both men. And it feels like we're at a really interesting point in this division where the new guard is about to come up. The new guard is about to enter this conversation. And at some point, the end comes for Alexander Volkanovski's title reign. I wouldn't be shocked if it's somewhat soon.
AK. Max
Yeah,
Holloway the favorite. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Oh, the only thing is the age thing though is I always, you kind of have to view people in their MMA years, right? In their fight years. And in fighting years, Max is technically a bit older than him. He started his career a couple years earlier, and he's been facing super, super high level competition for longer. So I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree that Volkanovski is gonna sort of like the clock's gonna run out on him sooner. I'm just looking at this now. In Max's 5th pro fight, he fought Dustin Poirier, which sounds completely insane now when you mention it. And Volkanovski was fighting some guy named Luke Kachubig. Luke Kachubig. That can't be a real name. Luke, if you're out there, I hope you're doing okay. Or if you're a bad person, I hope you're not doing okay.
Kachubig. Yeah, Kachubig.
Luke Kachubig. But my point is, Max is started his career a little bit earlier, and also has been fighting at a much higher level for longer. So again, we probably shouldn't be using the word shop worn. I see some people in the comments, saying like shop worn. Why is he shop worn? He's performed well. He hasn't looked like washed, and it's very, very true. But I think the clock is around at the same time for both of them, as far as like how much sand they have left in the hourglass, if you want to use another time comparison. So yeah, I do think there's a world where neither of these guys are at the top like the same time next year. I just don't know if it's necessarily like, Volkanovski's going to peter out first. But it is fascinating though to look at where these guys are at their careers right now, and how they might not be super far off, because we do know, again, Max only loses to him, and Dustin Poirier, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. The age thing is interesting because Max, he's 20, he's 31.
31.
But it's
got that island
31.
blood though. He does have that island blood. He does have that. It's a hard 31. That's a hard 31.
He's a 31-year-old who fought Conor McGregor, fought Dustin Poirier twice. He's beaten Cub Swanson, Charles Oliveira, Jeremy Stevens, Ricardo Lamas, which at the time meant a lot, Anthony Pettis, Jose Aldo twice, who is the greatest featherweight of all time, Brian Ortega, Frankie Edgar, Calvin Kattar,
Amazing.
Yair Rodriguez. He's fought
What a
Volkanovski 3 times. It's insane. This is just
What a
an
resume.
insane
A lot of
experience.
5-round fights.
Yeah.
7 straight 5-round fights right now. 7 straight 5-round fights for Max Holloway.
They make them island boys different, man. They
Damn.
really do. It's an unreal
Damn.
run.
Absolutely. So, AK, will that experience play a factor in this fight? The betting odds are suggesting so. Max Holloway is the favorite, -175. Comeback on Arnold Allen, +150 AK. How does this thing go? How does it play out?
Yeah.
What happens?
And Tapology is pretty in line with that as well. 67% Holloway, maybe a little bit high. I guess maybe they're favoring him a little more, but actually that's not too far off from the listed odds you just mentioned. So I'm leaning towards Arnold Allen. Part of it is I think he's due. Part of it is maybe I just want to see new blood. I want this matchup to have a meaning, because as you mentioned, Mike, you and I have discussed. We've discussed with everyone on a bunch of shows that if Max wins, it really it's great. Listen, we love Max Holloway, super exciting. Great to see the former champion still excelling, knocking off contenders. But he's knocking off a contender who we like and who makes a lot of sense as someone to challenge for a UFC title. So yeah, what does that do to the state of the division? It's probably not great. So I may just be fatigued with Max knocking off contenders. Could be part of that. Because in my heart, I know Max Holloway is a better striker than Arnold Allen. I know this. I'm aware of this. But again, this is the mixing of the martial arts. I trust Arnold Allen to have a few tricks up his sleeve. I know he can go a good 5 rounds. I know he hasn't. Again, he has 0 5-round fights to Max Holloway's 7 consecutive 5-round fights against the best of the best competition. This may pan out, Mike, like your Rob Font, Adrian Yanez, what happened with them last week, though. Again, Arnold Allen has faced some pretty good competition. So I am leaning towards Allen by decision. Highly, highly competitive fight. I think the slight youth advantage, I think the slight athleticism advantage is going to go a long way. We could be headed towards controversy too. I have a feeling that whoever wins, I don't know if it's going to be clear cut. So I'm going Arnold by decision with some possible robbery review coming in the next 48 hours.
Oh, wow. That's spicy.
Maybe. I don't know. I hope not. I love
AK predicting his own column.
It's possible. I'll get the draft ready just in case. This is a good matchup.
You know if that happens, Arnold wins, right? That's an Arnold Allen with the sort of luck he's had and all the doubts and all the questions. If that happens, Arnold's gonna win.
No,
right?
with his luck, I think that would be him losing, and then in a fight that everyone thinks he won. That
Well,
feels like an Arnold Allen thing.
or if he wins and it's just like, well, I don't think he won. He doesn't get the credit for the win because most people thought Max won. So maybe he has to deal with that. Kind of like the Kattar one, like doesn't feel like a win in a lot of respects because the fight never really got going. But that's neither here nor there. What were you going to say, Shaheen?
Let me just throw this out there because that would go towards what we were just saying. When do you guys think, without looking it up, maybe you've already looked it up, but I hope not. When do you think the last time Max Holloway lost a featherweight fight that was not against Alexander Volkanovski? How far back do you have to go?
It's Connor, right?
When do you think that was?
2014? It was 2014, right?
2013.
Oh, yeah, because I was there. It was either 13 or 14.
10 years.
I was there for that fight.
10 years. A decade. We've gone a decade now with Max Holloway cleaning out this division to the point where the only person he's lost to in this entire division is Alexander Volkanovski. Sure, he's lost 3 times, but that is nuts. That is absolute nuts. That is what Arnold Allen is up against this weekend, to do something that no one other than the champion has done the past decade to Max Holloway at this division. That's daunting, man. That's a daunting task.
And Shaheen, I'll let you kind of dive into your pick, but one thing Calvin said I thought was really interesting was you cannot let Max Holloway get cooking. You cannot let a little snowball roll downhill and turn into just this giant avalanche of destruction, because when Max starts to flow, it's very tough to beat this man. It's very, very tough to beat this man when he starts flowing. In fact, I don't think anybody could beat that man when he just gets off and running. And Volkanovski did a nice job being able to slow that down a little bit. Can Arnold Allen slow that down, Shaheen? Have you talked yourself into changing your pick, and why?
Yeah, Calvin is a great example of what happens when Max does get cooking, right? Because Max puts on one of the greatest highlights we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years with the "I'm the best boxer in the UFC, baby" sequence. That whole fight is a perfect example of what happens when you let the snowball roll down the hill too much. I just can't pick against Max, man. This is ultimately where I keep coming back to. It's so difficult for me because I am such a believer in Arnold Allen, and I would pick him against almost everybody else in this division. If he was fighting Alexander Volkanovski, that would be a tough fight for me. I'd probably pick Volk, but it would be a harder fight to pick to me than this. I just can't pick against Max. For some reason, it just feels silly to write him off at this point in his career when we haven't seen examples of why we need to write him off, right? Like, you can't beat Alexander Volkanovski. That's tough, but a lot of people can't beat Alexander Volkanovski. I go Max. I won't be stunned if it's Arnold because I do believe in his potential. I believe in his talent. I think he's going to be that guy by the end of his career before this is all said and done. Maybe this is the moment. Maybe it's the next time around. But I gotta lean Max until Max gives me a reason not to.
Yeah, I'm with Max, and I'm not saying this because I don't believe in Arnold Allen. I think he should probably be fighting for the belt. Like, he should be the man in waiting fighting for the belt, but not what happens. He could get there by beating a guy like Max Holloway. And I mean, if he beats Max, there's no doubt about it, he's next in line. I just don't know if he can win 3 out of 5 rounds against Max Holloway. I mean, he's got to be perfect to win this fight. He's got to be perfect. And Max has been through the 5-round wars many, many times. And who knows, maybe that could be to his detriment and maybe to Arnold's advantage. But until I see otherwise, Arnold Allen needs to win. He probably needs to win the first 3 rounds in order to win a decision here, because I agree with Calvin. I think Max can get cooking down the stretch. We saw it in the Sodiq Yusuff fight. Arnold started to slow down a little bit in that 3rd round. That gives me a little bit of cause for pause. And Arnold's in tremendous shape. The dude is a machine. His whole family's a bunch of machines. But I feel like Max is going to be able to get going maybe by the 3rd round. And even if Arnold wins the first 2 rounds, I think Max starts to cook then. And if he starts cooking at all, it's just a downhill run for him. It's just a downhill sprint. So I do think this fight is competitive, but I will go with Max Holloway to get it done over the 5 rounds, 48-47, maybe a 49-46. But I think it's one of those fights where Arnold, his stock will rise. We'll be like, damn, he's legit. It's kind of like the Song Yadong, Corey Sandhagen type of thing. Maybe not to the extent where he gets finished and there's a doctor stoppage, but we left that fight being like, damn, Song Yadong is pretty damn good at fighting. He just couldn't beat Corey Sandhagen tonight. And I kind of feel like we're going to have the same kind of feeling with Arnold, and Max just kind of does what Max does. I think this road continues on. So it's going to be a hell of a fight.
Real quick before we move on, because the people come to the MMA Fighting preview show for these reasons. For the facial hair breakdown, The clean shaven Max. What do we think of this? Is this a positive going into this fight? Is this a negative? Is this impact his? Is this going to make him fight better, fight worse? Do you like the clean shaven look? It's very bizarre on Max, I gotta say.
I loved it.
I like it.
I was thrown off. I was like, man, anyone who thinks this guy, he's just like anyone who says I'm too old and I'm washed. Look at this baby face. He looks like he's 23 years old right now. It's insane.
He's throwing it back. That does make me rethink now my call on the fight, but I will go with it'll be a close one. The facial hair making it all the more competitive, or the lack of facial hair, excuse me. The baby face. So yeah, it's a great look for him. It's always good to listen. It's always good to mix things up. We all know how a nice, like, little, I don't know, shaving or whatever, or new shirt or something can kind of change your mentality. Listen, he's coming off, like we said, that last of Volkanovski. He's got to kind of put that behind him, put that whole really trilogy behind him for now, and just kind of treat this as a new, fresh run at 145, which again, according to our voters, 58%. I'll end the poll now. 58% think that he has another championship run in him. So maybe it starts with a clean shave.
I think the next poll is about the facial hair. I think that's perfect. I think it will triple the votes. Triple the votes from the last poll. Max Holloway babyface. Is this a new mythical creature at this point in 2023 in mixed martial arts? Look at that.
Look at that. It's tremendous.
Look at that, man. It's outstanding.
Get some mustache bets going. You and Casey, AK. Mustache bet for this fight.
Oh, what? Like, can I grow one? Is that the bet? Is because
Casey shaves. If he loses, if you lose, you grow.
No one wants that.
I kind of want that.
Casey, who are you picking? Are you picking Max?
Oh, see, that's what.
Put him on the spot, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can't make a mustache bet if he's picking Arnold Allen.
I did pick Arnold Allen decision. Yeah,
that's tragic.
We'll keep this mustache bet in mind for future preview shows. I do want to touch on the co-main event, and we'll talk about some other fights as well. Shaheen, Edson Barboza. And we talk about resumes. This guy's strength of schedule might be the most insane I've ever seen in the history of this.
Read it off because it's crazy. People don't realize how crazy it is till you hear it.
I mean, it's the last 8 years of this dude's career is just unbelievable. So I'm scrolling down to boom. From April 2014, Donald Cerrone, Evan Dunham, Bobby Green, Michael Johnson, Paul Felder, Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis, Gilbert Melendez, Beneil Dariush, Habib Nurmagomedov, Kevin Lee, Dan Hooker, Justin Gaethje, Paul Felder again, Dan Ige, Makwan Amirkhani, Shane Burgos, Giga Chikadze, Bryce Mitchell. That's an order, people. That's an order. Those are the last however many fights that was in order. And before that was Danny Castillo, which in December of 2013, that would fit right into this puzzle here. This is a resume of resumes. This is a murderer's row. Strength of schedule. I don't know if it gets any tougher than Edson Barboza in the history of the sport. He's taking on another tough guy, Billy Quarantillo, action-packed fighter, fan favorite. Man, this fight's great, Shaheen. This is a great co-main event. Two featherweights who love to strike and make the fans happy. What else can we say about this fight? It's glorious. And this is like and this is a tough-ass fight. This is a tough-ass fight for Edson Barboza. This might be the biggest step back he's had. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way about Billy Quarantillo because he's a tough SOB. But we just listed off the names that this guy has fought over the last 9 years. And now he's fighting Billy Quarantillo, which is somehow a step back compared to these guys.
Mike, that list included 2 UFC champions, 2 interim UFC champions, and a former Strikeforce champion. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's not bad. It's not bad. That entire 9-year runway, and the worst name on there is Makwan Amirkhani, and then the second worst name is
Dunham. And Dunham was really good. And Evan Dunham was really good.
Shane Burgos, come on, man, that's a crazy run. And also, you didn't even mention the results because there's a lot of good performances in there. There's a knockout win over Benny Dariush, wins over Pettis, Melendez, Hooker, Felder, Green. Barboza is just one of those guys. We say it all the time, but this is why Damn They Were Good, our buddy Jed Meshew, created that show to memorialize guys like this who I think none of us at this point probably expect Edson Barboza to go win the UFC title. But that's a hell of a career. That dude gave us so many different moments over the course of it. You absolutely love to see it. The fact that he has just been able to thrive in this, maybe not thrive, but survive and do well and be competitive in this featherweight division continues to amaze me. Because I never ever believed that this guy would be able to make it at featherweight. He was such a massive lightweight. It seemed like he couldn't possibly have 10 more pounds to cut on that body. Like he was already just shredded up, and it looks like if anything he should go up in weight. And the fact that he's been able to cut down to 45, be competitive, and have a lot of really good fights with these guys speaks volumes to his discipline and just who he is as a person, as a fighter, and as an athlete, right? Because that's just an incredible feat to do at his stage in his career. And then Billy Quarantillo, Dude's been through it, man. Like he's given us tough fights, bangers every time out. I love this. This is just going to end up being fight of the night. Like this is one of those that when the matchmakers made it, they kind of like leaned back a little bit and was like, yeah, that's a good one. They're going to like that one. So I absolutely love it. I think this is going to be a really fun one.
Yeah, Billy Q called for that fight after the Alexander Hernandez win, and they were just like, oh, thank you, Billy. This is a great idea. We're just going to go ahead and do that. AK, your thoughts on this co-main event? Because it is just delightful.
This card's a featherweight delight. We've got that. With that, we'll talk a little bit later, I guess, like low-key bangers, but we might not have time to mention like Bill Algeo, TJ Brown, also a really fun fight potentially. So featherweight is great. We prop up the bantamweight division all the time because I always feel like it's maybe not always getting the love it deserves. People know featherweight. I mean, it's right up there with lightweight. It's like it's just always like great action. It's just great names. I can't even speak right now. I'm so excited about this matchup. So I love I love the main event. I love Edson Barboza versus Billy Quarantillo. I don't know where to go with it. Again, this one I haven't put quite as much thought into the matchup yet. I probably lean younger. I think people have seen that with a lot of my predictions. I'm usually going to lean towards younger fighter, less battle damage. But man, and this was brought up by the No Bets Barred crew. Billy Quarantillo is not like a super great defensive fighter. So if people are looking for an action fight or a highlight reel knockout, it could really go either way. There's a very good chance that one of these guys is getting got. There's a very good chance that one of these guys or both guys are just like messed up after a 3-round scrap. So give me a second to make a pick here.
We don't even have to make a pick.
Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza is not that guy to fight if you're not able to shore up your defense too. Like
that's
what
advantage. I'm saying. I feel like Quarantillo should be able to get him first, but man, if you're getting hit by Edson Barboza, you're not going to last long. That's just these kind of slugfests generally go in his favor. Some of the split decisions he's lost, I thought that Barboza got the better of it. Those recent split decision losses. So I don't know. I don't think this one goes to the cards, but man, I'm having a tough time figuring out who comes out on top.
Just saying. Edson's the dog here, plus 150. Billy Q minus 175. So if you're looking for a sprinkle somewhere,
Mike, can you look up a line real quick?
I would love to.
What's Edson by KO TKO?
Ooh, I will look that up right now. And it's a
little surprising to me that he's the dog in this.
All right, fight props. Let's see.
What did we just see on Saturday? Right? What was the theme of Saturday?
Experience matters. Experience matters. Let's see.
I have it.
You have. Thank you, AK. Thank you so much. What is it?
Never bet. First of all, hashtag never bet on MMA. But if you do, please use DraftKings. Use the promotional code the MMA Hour. Again, don't do it, but if you must. Edson Barboza plus 450 to win by KO. Pretty big long shot.
Wow.
That's high odds. Plus 450. So if you guys think Barboza is going to win, I think picking a knockout is not a bad bet. Billy Q is pretty tough, though. He's pretty tough to put away.
He's pretty tough, but Edson Barboza is Edson Barboza, right? With those knees and with the kicks and everything. I don't know, man. That seems like I'd sprinkle a little bit on that. If I was able to bet. Never bet, but if I did
never bet. Don't bet
a
on
little
it.
sprinkle.
Yes, we also have Dustin Jacoby, Azamat Mirzakhanov, Iwan Kuchulaba taking on Tanner Bozer, AK the Canadian.
Tanner
203 pounds, 203, looking shredded.
Sensational at the scale. I know he's been on Instagram. Listen, the Instagram photos have been great too. But seeing him at the scale, hitting the bodybuilder pose, that is, he looks completely different. He looks
Okay,
completely.
I haven't looked this up yet. I didn't realize
He
that
looks
hit
like
203.
he looks
I
like
gotta
two.
look this up.
He looks like 2 inches taller too. I know that's not. I know he's not. I know that's not possible. But it's. I don't know. It's like vertically, he's just got a new look to him. So that's going to be a listen. Any fight with Yohan Kuchalaba is unpredictable. So don't listen to me saying like I think Boza's going to like necessarily run through him, because again, Kuchalaba, something always weird happens with this guy's fight. Something weird, some controversy. But generally they also end in a finish. So that'll be a fun one way or the other. And if you're going to a bodybuilding contest, I mean, I don't know how you can't not like Tanner Bozer. Not that Kuchalaba is any kind of slouch, by the way.
Tanner Bozer with abs. Look at this.
He looks.
Oh my gosh, I was not
outstanding.
ready for this.
Yeah, he looks powerful.
That's everybody's
Powerful.
Where has this been?
He was used to get mad when people asked him about cutting to 205, and
He did. I remember
we were just
that.
looking out for it. We were just looking out for the man. Look at this guy. He looks tremendous coming off the bus now.
I think his head shrank.
Oh man. Also, we have Pedro Munoz versus Chris Gutierrez on this card, and look at that guy. I mean,
That looks like
it's
different.
like not a. Yeah, he doesn't even look the same.
Those are
Without the mullet and the
guys.
beard.
Those are muscles. My goodness. Impressive. Sorry to objectify you if you're out there, Tanner Bozer, but congratulations on on the weight loss. You look fantastic, and hopefully get yourself a W on Saturday.
Yes. Munoz Gutierrez. Main card opens with Clay Guida versus Rafa Garcia. I'm just gonna say one thing. We're not gonna do a low-key banger because there's only one answer to this question, and I'm gonna get on a soapbox for a minute, just for a moment, and then I'll let you guys go on. Shaheen, I'll start with you. What is the deal with this promotional malfeasance that is going on in this card? How in the hell? And normally I will find a way to justify it because at the end of the day, bout order doesn't like make me as upset as most people. But in this case, I have a big problem with Brandon Royval versus Matheus Nicolau being buried on the prelims. Like, it's not even the featured prelim. Are you kidding me right now? This should be the co-main event. And no disrespect to Edson Barboza versus Billy Quarantillo. Tremendous fight. You can put that anywhere on this main card and people are just going to be very excited for it. Zippity doo-dah. It's tremendous. But this is it's 2 top 5 guys. This is probably a number 1 contender fight. This is probably a title eliminator. At least someone's getting in like a leg up on Manel Kopp, unless outside of him fighting Davis Figueiredo. But how is this in the prelims, Shaheen? Like, the people have been screaming from the rooftops, like, how dare you put this on the prelims? The UFC is like, what are we doing here? How is this not on the main card, or at least the featured prelim? This is unbelievable.
I'm sorry, Mike. I'm having trouble hearing you and listening, and also my internet seems to be crapping out just because of the idea. Looking at all these Tanner Bozer photos, like thinking the idea of Tanner Bozer, future light heavyweight champion, has just ruined my internet. It's like my whole everything going on in my house right now has gotten awry because of this. No, I mean, you know exactly what it is. It's the continued disrespect that we still seem to get for the flyweight division, despite the fact that at this point we have proven over and over again that flyweight is one of the most fun divisions out there. Flyweight unders is a thing for a reason. You talk about the No Bets Bar crew, like they championed this. They brought this into the mainstream. Flyweight unders, baby, easiest bet in sports. And also, it's funny too because like Brandon Royval is just entertainment, right? Like any Brandon Royval fight should just be a main card fight, no matter what. Unless like it's the most stacked pay-per-view ever, like you're gonna want to tune into a Brandon Royval fight. That fight's gonna be tons of fun. And it's very, very meaningful. It's probably the most meaningful fight on this entire card outside of the main event, just in terms of the grand scope of the divisions and what things mean. The fact that it's just buried on the prelims is just same old, right? I don't get it. I don't get the continued disrespect towards this division when this division has just consistently shown through time and time again. And also this division just has a really fun, likable champion right now. Like, we should be trying to make his challengers feel as big as possible. And it's like you said, this is probably a number 1 contender fight, or at least somewhat close to it. Like, this should be the co-main event, and it's not really a discussion. Like, I don't know why it isn't.
AK, your thoughts? What are we doing here? Can you defend this in any way?
Listen, I don't know if you saw his tweet. Our pal Aaron Fronston, our man who works for TSN, he kind of had an explanation for it. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. So his 4 points were, because assuming people have been discussing the card placement of this fight, which I think there has been, some discussion of it, but I don't know if that replaces just good old fashioned, like, promotional main card advertisement. Anyway, he's saying people have been talking about it, which draws attention to me a fight. It reminds people to watch the fight. Okay. Makes people tune in.
That's silly.
Makes people tune into the card at the time the fight airs. It's a
No, it
certain
doesn't.
segment, yes.
No,
and
it
then
doesn't.
and then he also said it maximized viewership for a longer chunk of the card. I think there's some case he made that's more hardcore fans will tune in. Well, actually, hardcore fans usually just tune in from the first.
Hardcores are going to watch it regardless. The only people talking about it are the hardcores. The people who are going to watch it anyway are the ones who are upset that this fight is so low on the card. You put it at a higher card placement because more people are going to tune in towards the end of the card, just generally for any of these shows. These shows pick up viewers and gain steam throughout. That's how this works.
And it's a more casual audience too. There's definitely a large segment of people who will say, "Oh, when does the main card start on ESPN?" Because the prelims are on ESPN Plus. So there is a large portion that's just like, "Oh, when does the UFC start on ESPN? Oh, 8:30? Okay, that's when I'm tuning in. I'm not logging into ESPN Plus to watch whatever." There's a much more casual audience out there who's like, "Oh, who's on the 6-fight main card?" And they don't see those names up there, and it does diminish them. It does diminish them. We have said multiple times. Shaheen, you started off your this segment by saying, this is how they have always treated the flyweight division. They've always, and then they act like, and then they go like, "Oh, why can't flyweights headline a pay-per-view?" And it's like, well, you've conditioned people to view them as preliminary acts. Of course, they can't headline a pay-per-view. This isn't. I'll always say with Demetrius Johnson for sure. Look, listen, there's no. Listen, I respect Aaron, and I think there's some point to be made there. But definitely, I wish this was on the main card. Especially a 6-fight main card, and really, you could pick maybe 3.
Clay Guida, Rafa Garcia. It's gonna be fun, but that should be in that spot.
That's a featured prelim. That's a featured prelim. Clay Guida and Rafa Garcia. That's a featured prelim. You put that at the top of the prelims. That's the one where, like, if people who are sort of like, "Oh, Clay Guida, I know him. I'll just tune in a little bit early and make sure I catch everything." You could have that. Definitely, Johan Kuchelaba and Tanner Bruiser and Jacoby Mirzakhanov. Probably gonna be a fun fight. I still would put that as a fight that could be replaced by Royval Nicolau. So listen, I'm playing devil's advocate here a little bit. I'm with you guys. Put flyweights on the main card. Maybe this needs to be the new hashtag. Put flyweights on the main card because it's getting really silly.
I like that you called him Tanner Bruiser.
He's Tanner Bruiser now. He is Tanner Bruiser now.
I like it. I'm into it.
Yeah, looks ridiculous.
Again, any mention of this 205 Tanner Bozer, my internet just goes to crap. This is interesting.
I gotta stop bringing it up.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if the peeps are going to bring it up. Let's see what they have to say about UFC KC.
The questions
and we'll bring in KC with his nose bandaged up and looking just way bigger than it was the last time I saw it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Just keeps growing.
Life of a fighter.
Yeah. Got
what
beat
was
up
the shot that did it to you?
I was inspired by Max Holloway. So it was the 6. So we spar 6 rounds, and this was the final round of sparring, and it was the last 10 seconds. And I'm going against a 22-year-old undefeated 185er who's about 195 right now, preparing for his fight in 2 weeks. In the last 10 seconds, I got beat up the first 2.5 minutes, but I was in there still. The last 10 seconds, I'm gonna go, hey, let's go Max Holloway. I'm just gonna start throwing hooks and just have fun the last 10 seconds. Horrible idea. I went hook for hook and I just caught one straight in the face. And I had full headgear on. It just hit me right in the middle. And yeah. And I got dropped hard. And I saw the punch coming the whole time. I was like, ooh, this is gonna hurt. Yeah, and it got me. So that was the punch. So not sure if it's broken, but and sleeping last night sucked, and it was a big mess. But yeah.
To be in that gym where Casey's like drawing a fake line in the ring, pointing at the mat. Let's go, you middleweight.
I'm about 165 right now, but I was like, I don't. Since I'm 6 feet tall, so I'm like I'm as tall as the middleweight. So like, hey, go into with the middleweights. I'm like, all right, let's do this, and yeah, good times.
Well, let's see what the peeps have to say.
Yeah, let's do this.
This UFC fight card is for the MMA hardcores. Let's go.
I like this card.
It's a good card. It's good.
The main event is just a 10 out of 10. Like,
10
main
out of
event's
10,
one of my most anticipated fights this whole year.
Yeah. I know we said... go ahead, Casey.
No. Does anyone know offhand when the last time a men's flyweight has headlined a fight night?
Oh, a fight night.
Is it ever?
Luis Smoka and Patty Holohan?
Ha!
No, wow. It can't be that bad.
No. I'm sure there's been one since, but Benavidez and Cejudo or something? Benavidez Cejudo? Or...
I'm looking right now.
That wasn't the main event, though.
A few years back, and I'm not seeing anything.
Really?
I just can't think of one. I was just kind of
It's probably DJ.
in a title fight, pretty much, right?
Kansas City?
Yeah.
Yeah, when they gave us 3 title fights.
Cejudo Dillashaw was technically a title fight. Technically a fight night, but that was a title fight as well.
I'm all the way back in 2019, and I still haven't found one.
Yeah.
It might have been that. Might have been Cejudo Dillashaw.
Let me see the but that was a title fight. I think we mean non-title fight night.
Oh, man.
Main event. I
don't know, man.
I don't know.
It's probably the women, not the men's.
No,
Someone in the comments.
Aaron Blanchfield has headlined,
Yeah.
This is
We
true.
got
Just
we got
happened.
Cynthia
Yeah, that's true.
Calvillo. Yeah, we got Cynthia Calvillo, Jessica Eyes.
Yeah.
but not the men's, eh?
It is it's crazy. And Brandon Royval is one of the most, without a doubt, one of the most exciting fighters to watch. Regardless
and he
of
cut
weight.
promos. He cut great
He cuts
promos.
promos and I saw one justification for let's see if I can find it. Oh, here it is.
Is the reason Royval and Nicolau are on the prelims because they know we can't afford to wait the extra few hours for the year of the Raw Dog to go? That is a great question, AK.
That's good. You also have to accommodate for different time zones too. If there's higher up the card, it might be a little too late in some areas. So this is good. It's both national and international respect for celebrating the year of the Raw Dog. Listen, Mike. I'm on record. On to the next one. Our early season predictions. I said somehow I feel like
I was about to bring this up. Yeah,
I somehow feel like he's going to end the year as the flyweight champion. I'm not sure how. I have a weird feeling about it, and maybe it starts on Saturday. So I'm all in on this. Might be the only year, 2023. After this, I may never utter this phrase again, but I'm all in on the year of the Raw Dog this year.
The disrespect to put AK's future 2023 UFC champion on the prelims like this.
Hey, look, if you put this,
maybe it's his nickname.
Maybe
you can't put that on ESPN. You can't put that nickname on ESPN, mainstream ESPN.
That's for the internet only.
I don't know if you guys have seen. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I'm looking at it right now because I was curious. The ticket sales for this card, not good.
Oh,
not good.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of blue.
You're telling me this
1,
sellout
2,
streak is
3
about to end in Kansas City?
Oh, dude. Unless they get about 8,000 people walking up to the door, there's a lot of blue on the main website. I think there's only like 6 sections in the entire arena that is sold out right now. So,
I wonder.
Dang.
Look, man, they just won the Super Bowl. They
bad.
got a lot of stuff going on.
It's not too bad. They're doing okay. I'm looking deeper. Upper sections, there's a lot of seats left. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be a sellout. Unless you make the decision now to bump this fight to the main card.
That's the one. That's what saves
Could be it.
All right.
Frankly, they should be putting Tanner Bozer on all these billboards. Do people not understand what's about to happen? I mean, come on.
I don't think they knew, man. I don't think they knew. But I know we weren't going to do bangers. I did want to mention a few odds and ends here. Zach Cummings maybe fighting for the last time. Zach Cummings maybe retiring his first fight in like 1,000 days. He's going out
Ed Herman.
Against Ed Herman. He looks very big and happy. I saw him at the scale. He looked very big and happy.
Former welterweight fighting at 205.
Former welterweight. That's right.
This is like a real fight that could happen in 2012.
Dude, I love it.
2023. I love it.
I love it. So Zach Cummings, if this is it for you, good. Jillian Robertson dropping down to 115. Did you guys realize that? I didn't realize till a few days ago that this is she is moving down a division for the first time.
Has she ever been 115 before?
She's never. No. I want to say she has before the UFC in her early days, but UFC definitely the first time. Yeah, has not fought.
She wants that Rose fight.
Yeah, and she looked good in the scale. She looked very healthy, very happy. So we'll see how that goes. And a lot of little intriguing things here and there. We had one weight miss, guys. No bantamweight fight, by the way, guys. No bantamweight fight again. Another week without one.
Women's bantamweight.
Women's bantamweight. Excuse me. Women's bantamweight. Johnson Edwards, half a pound over. That's a catch weight bout, guys. So, sorry, guys. Once again, the women's bantamweight drought continues.
Also, the biggest streak going on this card right now with Lando Venata is he gonna keep doing this one again, off again, on again, on again, off again thing? He's got to keep it going. He's never had a streak of anything in his UFC career. Never 2 wins in a row, never 2 losses in a row. Got to win.
Amazing.
This one.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Is he? What do we know about his opponent? I know very little.
He's very young.
Daniel Zellhuber,
very young.
Okay,
unproven.
Yeah, Daniel fought Trey Ogden. Let me see. This is in September of last year. Daniel was like the dude. Everyone was looking at him. He was like, I don't know if he's the biggest favorite on the card, but he's one of the biggest favorite on the cards. He was the guy that everyone was just like, all right, he's a guaranteed parlay piece because he's definitely going to win, right? And then Trey Ogden beat him and he like killed everybody's parlays. So in fact, GC on No Bets Barred he called it a revenge bet. He's betting on Lando Venata because of that. Simply for that, because he cost some parlays. So, yeah, he's good. Tremendous upside. Seems like he has a really bright future. But as we've talked about many times before, 1, experience matters. And 2, sometimes the lights are just very bright and you're not used to them. And maybe that's what happened with young Daniel. Maybe the Apex lights were a little too bright. So, I don't know. Maybe he just needed a crowd. We'll see what happens. Let's see if he can bounce back. But yeah, that was a tough one.
A young 23 when he fought. Yeah,
he's 23. UFC matchmaking is so weird. Like he loses to a tough guy in Trey Ogden, and then instead of saying like let's move him back and like fight someone closer to his age and experience level, they're like, oh no, let's throw him in there with like a much more experienced guy in Lando Venata. Like, I don't understand the logic. Like maybe he kills Lando Venata. I don't know, but it's just so bizarre.
Or maybe
Lando's got to have a top 5 most bizarre UFC career going right now.
Yes.
Like just in terms of the current roster, like this dude debuts against Tony Ferguson and I think everyone was throwing him in as a future title contender, right? And it just never happened for him. It's so strange.
And those crazy fights against Bobby Green and Matt Favola that wind up being draws and just like
he'll give you hell. He'll give anybody hell on any given night, and then he'll also just lose to anybody on any given night. It's one of the more frustrating careers we've seen in a bit.
And I think the 45 thing was just a mistake. I think that was
a big mistake.
Yeah,
I think he admitted as much.
Yeah, that's all that was. Cool.
What underdog wins on Saturday? So I'm glad you asked this for us, Daniels. Shaheen, I want to go to you because you coined the UFC 287 experience matters mantra, and I think that rang true quite a bit. And since then, a lot of people have brought up certain fights on this card as like the Rob Font, Adrian Yanez sort of thing. Some people brought up Edson Barboza versus Billy Q as one of those fights. I don't necessarily think that's the case, but there was one fight that I have circled on my card that certainly has those vibes. It is the Pedro Munoz versus Chris Gutierrez.
Yeah. I want to talk about that.
That one has those vibes to me because Chris is a good fighter. He's on a great run right now, and he's beat some good guys. Yes, beating Frankie Edgar was a nice resume builder for sure. But I just feel like people are forgetting about Pedro Munoz. And this is a guy who fought Sean O'Malley in July, got poked in the eye, won the first round in a lot of people's scorecards, and now all of a sudden he is a pretty sizable underdog to Chris Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez is a minus 225 favorite. Pedro Munoz comes back at plus 180. I have those vibes with this fight because Pedro is a very good leg kicker. And if you can kick legs very well, one would think you can defend leg kicks very well, even the leg kicks of a guy like Chris Gutierrez. And I just feel like Pedro has been in there with everybody. He's fought the who's who, and Chris has got some good wins and fought some tough dudes, but nowhere near the level of competition that Pedro Munoz has. So to me, this fight has those vibes that I had with the Rob Font, Adrian Yanez fight. Maybe not to the same degree, but pretty close. If there's one fight I could pick on this card that gives you those vibes, it's this one. Your thoughts?
Sorry, real quick before we talk about it, I forget. We talk about Barboza's murderer's row of type of competition. Munoz is right up there too,
dude. That's what I was about to say.
He's right up there too. Yeah. I kind of forgot, honestly. Yeah. Sorry, but I was like, yeah.
No, I mean, this is Pedro Munoz since 2017. Rob Font, John Dodson, Brett Johns, Brian Caraway, Cody Garbrandt, Aljo, Frankie, Jimmy Rivera, Jose Aldo, Dominic Cruz, Sean O'Malley. Like, come on, man. That's That's a nice list of opponents, man. That's a nice. But I think ultimately, Mike, I agree with everything that you just said there, and so I echo everything you said. I think it's an issue of optics, right? Because you look at just the optics of this fight. Say you don't know anything about either of these guys. You just look at their Wikipedia pages. One guy's 36. He's won like 1 out of his last 6 fights, something like that. And he sort of seems like he's on the downward trajectory if you haven't watched those fights, right? Whereas the other guy Gutierrez is pretty much undefeated in the UFC for the most part outside of his UFC debut, but he looks like someone very much on the upswing, right? 7 wins out of his last 8, just beat a legend in Frankie Edgar. It looks like the young up-and-comer who's on a hot streak, who's about to just really do something terrible to the old vet. But that's if you haven't watched Pedro Munoz. Like, Pedro Munoz is 36, but he is still damn good at this whole fighting thing. Like, I'm not saying that's not an easy night for anybody. So I agree with you 100%. To me, if I was picking an underdog, that has whiffs of what we just saw last week, whiffs of the Rob Font smell. I will say, too, I'll just throw it out there. Clay Guida can win any fight. Like, Clay Guida, you can never count out Clay Guida at this point. Like, if Clay Guida goes down, does some weird stuff and wins a split decision over Havik Kasira, is anybody gonna be shocked? Like, this dude is just ageless, timeless at this point. It is crazy that he's still doing this.
This is an old card.
It's a real old versus young.
There's a lot of old people on. Munoz 36, Barboza's 37. What else? Zach Cummings 38, Ed Herman's 42, Clay Guida's 30. Clay Guida's 41. Goodness,
it's a lot of this. It's a lot of
this. Jacoby's 35. Yeah, there's a lot of 35 plus fighters on here.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, Jacoby's 35, eh? I forget how long he's been around, eh?
Ed Herman's 42.
Ed Herman's 42.
Still keeping the dream alive.
It's crazy.
Zach Cummings 38. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Ed Herman.
This is an old. Yeah, you're right. This is an old.
Ed Herman Ed Herman's a super live dog. I am shocked. Zach Cummings is minus 225. I like Zach Cummings a lot, but when we're talking about a guy who hasn't fought in 2.5 years, he's openly said, "I'm probably retiring after this fight." How can he be minus 2? Is Ed Herman that? Like, I don't even think Ed Herman's that bad.
Strike Force legend Ed Herman. You will use his full title.
This is
plus
what a
180.
weird line. Ed Herman plus 180, but Cummings minus 2, a 2-1. I like Zach. Zach Cummings should probably not be a 2-1 favorite against anybody right now this week. I don't know. That's weird. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Zach Cummings smokes him, but I don't think it's that clear cut. That's a weird one. I think there's a lot of
Cummings and Herman are both 0-1 in Strike Force. So that was interesting.
Yeah. The Ed Herman Strike Force chapter is so bizarre. They just needed anybody for Jacare to smash on, and they're like, "Sorry, Ed, you're the one we're calling up for this one."
Lando's a slight underdog. Brandon Royval's the underdog. So people like the year the raw dog. He's a plus 175. Not surprised either. Matheus Nicolau is really good. I don't know. I'm picking Royval. I don't know why. When I've been like driving the Nicolau's underrated train for like 2 years, but I just think Royval's really good. Munoz underdog. Tanner Bozer is a slight underdog right now. It's essentially a pick 'em, but he's a slight underdog plus 110.
There's a lot of underdog makers the photos though. AK. Have you sent the photos into the odds makers?
It's no, and we better not, because I may want to put some money down on my Canadian boy. Don't gamble on MMA.
This is a must win for Cutelaba, I assume, right? This is a must win.
What's that?
3 straight losses, 3 straight finishes.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, he's gone.
3 straight finishes?
No.
Ooh,
I don't think so.
205 is so bad.
You can't get cut.
Too shallow. Yeah, 205 is too shallow to get rid of a guy like him, but also he's just too wild and too fun.
Yeah.
That they give exactly what they want from these guys, right? Like, he is exactly the action fighter who's going to go out and do something crazy. When win or lose, you're going to remember it. I would be stunned if he gets cut, even with another loss. 205 is just not that division.
Oh my god,
he's become
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's been finished, not losses, finished 6 times.
It'll be 7 losses. 1 win in his past 8 fights. I think, because there's a draw in there too. Like 1 win in his past 8 fights. I think if he loses again or doesn't win on Saturday, that's tough.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the E1 we get. If we get E1 Cutelaba, that's one thing. But if we get D1 Cutelaba, that's another thing, because we've been getting that quite a bit over his last few fights. So, but that might be his path to victory.
Yeah, but okay, I'm just Did he tell? He's not doing the green makeup thing anymore, right? That's kind of a bummer.
He did last time.
There's ceremonials.
Why is it a
today.
bummer? Why is it a bummer?
No, you're saying it's a
What?
bummer. He doesn't. You're saying it's a bummer. He doesn't do it anymore.
He doesn't
right,
do it, right? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He did-
Oh,
he
sorry,
did on
sorry.
his last
Oh,
fight.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's a bummer. He's not. Sorry.
Like, how
he's
dare
not.
somebody do something
No,
unique as an
no.
individual?
Oh no, sorry.
Listen, Kansas City, there are ceremonials. There are ceremonials at 5 ET, 2 Pacific time. So listen, there's a chance. There's a chance we see some green Yuan Kuchalaba.
Is there anything in the rules and regulations that says he can't fight in the green makeup?
There has to be.
They're very
has
much.
to
We should get that amended though. I'm here for more face paint in octagon face paint.
Okay, and wait, and I guess last question. I think this has already been settled, but
Best Hawaiian fighter, Max Holloway or BJ Penn?
It's Max.
it's Max, right?
It's Max.
BJ was like the pioneer, but Max is, I think, the greatest.
BJ is the more important historical figure. He is
Yeah.
the guy that will still like ultimately like I don't know how to frame it, but he is the more important historical figure. But Max is the better fighter. Like he will have the better.
Oh,
life.
definitely, yes. And also, I don't expect Max to hang around as long if he hit like a BJ Penn.
Don't
10
type
fight
like
losing
that. Don't do that.
Stretch of futility. I think he would know when to call it a day. BJ's legacy it's definitely hurt by how it's ended. It's definitely hurt by how it's ended. I mean, it's you can't ignore it. You can say, well, let's cut it off at like the last Matt Hughes fight and just look at that. It's hard. It's hard to ignore everything that happened after.
Yeah,
Also, Max isn't losing fights at like a Hawaiian bar.
not yet.
You know,
Not yet.
late 30s. Like that.
God. So
Street
not-
fights.
I think Max, like if we're talking like start to finish, it's Max. But the BJ Penn run from like 2007 to 2010 before he lost the title to Frankie, I don't know if Max has beaten that run. Where I don't think at any point
that's just a legendary run. You can't.
Yeah,
there's,
that,
like,
yeah.
almost
BJ
impossible.
Penn was the best fighter on planet Earth for like 3 years.
BJ's
So-
peak was higher. BJ had a better
Oh,
apex.
for sure.
Max
Definitely.
had a better career, I would say.
Yep, I
There
would
you go.
agree with that.
Look at
That's it.
Shaheen. So smart.
The wise wordsmith. That's why he's got the nickname. All right, I think we're good, right?
Anything else, AK? Yeah. No. Oh, thumbs up. All right, that's the sign.
Oh wait, we never got an AK rating for the card.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'll give it quick. It was like 8.5, 8.6. I like this card. And for reference, like normally I say a pay-per-view starts at like a 9. If it's like a pay-per-view with 2 or 3 decent fights at the top, it like starts at a 9. So fight nights, degree of difficulty, a little bit lower. I'll go 8.5, 8.6 again. And I'm optimistic it can hit that number. I think it can hit that number. You'd have to have some really bad luck, I think, for this. It is a lot of fights. I will say it is a 14 fight card. So there could be some drag. There could be some drag in there. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not expecting there to be like a huge run of finishes, but I'll Prince of positivity. 8.5, 8.6.
Okay,
There we go.
now you get the music.
Yeah.
Now it feels right.
Yeah. It's perfect. Seems like perfect for a Max Holloway fight card, you know? This is just the right vibe. Babyface Max Holloway music. Oh no! Wrong music, wrong music. Oh man.
No, that's not right music either.
The pod listeners have no idea what's going on, but
There's another
good
Tanner
stuff.
Bozier's
It's
back
quality
on the
content.
screen. Yes. And that's it. So
I just
thank
had
you
to see
very
it one more
much.
time.
Jed Meshew is actually in Kansas City right now, so we got some boots on the ground.
Ooh.
Get excited about that. And we'll be back tomorrow. People's Pre-Fight Show, 30 minutes before the first fight begins. I believe it is me and Casey. So bring your questions on. If we didn't get to them today, we will get to them tomorrow. Then we'll enjoy the card. We'll have a post-fight show, and AK and I will be back on Sunday for another rousing edition of On to the Next One. So for Shaheen, Casey, AK, I am Mike Heck. Big shout out to Calvin Kattar for joining us for the first segment. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Get excited.
love you guys.